Hi everyone, my name is Paul Stevenson. I am a business technology strategist in the cloud group at Avaya. Thank you very much for watching this Lightboard training session. By the end of this session, you should be able to accomplish 4 objectives. You should be able to explain Avaya Cloud and what we mean when we say cloud your way. This means you should be able to describe public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, and even the differences between when Avaya is hosting the cloud services and powered by when our partners are hosting the cloud services. You should be able to explain why customers have trusted us and why they continue to trust us to move their unified communications and contact center solutions into the cloud. You should also be able to explain why customers are betting on us for the future of their business communications needs. And with a little bit of practice, you should be able to deliver the Avaya Cloud Story as a single, all-encompassing story which bridges the past through the present to the future to provide businesses the outcomes and experiences that their customers need and expect in an omni-channel, globally connected, artificial, intelligent, and machine learning powered world, whether you have access to a Lightboard, a whiteboard, only your voice, or the back of a napkin. Now, it's important to say that you do not need to deliver this message exactly the way that I do today. The major point is that you hit on the primary themes and that you align those back to the 3 dimensions that businesses usually make decisions from. And those tend to be performance, and we're going to draw this as a triangle because these things tend to be tugging on each other. We're going to say cost and risk. And it's important to note while I'm setting this up that you would not likely put this on the board if you're in front of customers. But this is part of kind of the initial setup and what I really want to drive home, which is everything that we're doing should always go back to what's important to the business. And these tend to be the 3 dimensions that executive decision makers use to help them make smart, informed decisions. So by performance, what we really mean is the business wants to grow 15, 20% year over year. What are they doing to make sure that they can grow? Risk, no one wants to be on the front page of the New York Times or Wall Street Journal about yet another security breach and release of personal identifiable information. And cost, this is really around total cost of ownership and this idea that most businesses don't need to just save money on the bottom line. Usually what they would like to do is they'd like to move money from the maintenance mode or kind of keep the lights on, keep the systems just running mode over to the innovation bucket. And you can imagine if you're a $1 billion a year company and you spend some percentage points on IT, if you could move a point or 2 points from maintenance mode into innovation, this could be a significant improvement and allow you to do things that differentiate your business. So that's the business lens we want to always make sure that we're kind of coming back to. So if those are the business dimensions, then the strategic differentiators that we want to again line up to these dimensions tend to be across 3 primary things today from strategic differentiation point of view. One is this idea of cloud your way, and what does that actually mean? Second is experience. And in this world where we say experience is everything, we have to be careful because again, kind of like cloud, that definition experience can have many meanings. But at Avaya, what we mean is Remember, we created the telephone, our DNA. We created some of the first instances of these telecommunication solutions. We have experience that no one in the world, in the industry, could possibly have. And we've passed that on from generation to generation. That also means that our experience transcends just technology, and it means that we've built additional technology that allows us to create delighting experiences for our customers. So in this idea that they're calling into, users are calling into a contact center, and we want to make sure they have an amazing experience, it is in fact due to our technology and our experience in making other customers successful. That experience is a differentiator for us. And last, we at our core, we're a technology company. So we continue to bring disruptive, game-changing technology to market. We are solving problems that customers didn't know they could solve because no one had invented this technology before. This is one of the most exciting reasons why Avaya's Cloud Story is so different from everybody else. When we exited Chapter 11, we exploded out of the gates. We went public and we announced new services like mobile experience, intelligent, intelligent fueled routing type solutions. We are not chasing the herd. We are not minimally ahead. We are trying to maintain a significant lead. Customers are hiring us to do a job for them. It is our job to understand what that is and then align the right solution in the right delivery and consumption model. And if we think about this as kind of a targeted tag team approach between the technical folks in an opportunity on our side and the business folks on our side to the customer, we have our solutions engineers and our architects. They make sure that the functional components are there. The account executives and account managers, they really try to understand what are the business drivers. And then between those two, if you think about, I understand what the business is trying to accomplish. I know how much growth they're trying to drive. I know they have a 2020, a 2025 plan. Then we talk with the technical folks and we understand how they're planning to actually get here from a systems and tools perspective. This is the first point where we can try to correlate what the business wants to do with how they're trying to do it. Our job is not just to simply ask people what they want to do. Many times customers don't fully know what they want. They know what they're trying to get to, but they don't necessarily know how to get there. We sit across multiple industries. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands actually of customers. It is our job to not simply be an order taker. Our job is to be an advisor and a guide. So again, we're going to do a single version of this story. Again, make sure you hit on those three main points that I talked about. Don't worry about repeating what I said. Add your own interesting stories into this overall vision statement so that the story is yours. But make sure you are truly listening to what businesses are trying to accomplish so that you make sure that you align the right technical solution. Most of our competitors have a one-size-fits-all cloud-based solution. And what that really means is they're trying to fit everyone into this very small box. That is not what we're trying to do. And hopefully that is very clear by the time we're done here. So as a final thing to set this up before I kind of go into roll, if you will, the first thing we have to do in any kind of conversation is make sure that we're talking about the same thing. If you go in and the customer says, I want cloud, you have your own definition of what you think cloud means to people. And that's been formulated by the multiple conversations that we've had. But it is very important that we ask the customer what their definition of cloud is. So that's how we would start this off. And then inevitably we'll understand what their definition is. This will help us understand Because usually what they'll do is they'll tell you the first 2 or 3 things that are most important to them right now. We know what the strength and weaknesses of our solutions are. So when they give us their definition, this is the first moment to where we're going to start in our head to think, I think I have multiple ways to solve this. I may have one way to solve this. I may have no ways to solve this. I need to ask additional questions to uncover how important what they've said actually is. But no matter what you do, the customer's definition is the one that is most critical to you. So when we explain what is cloud to us, remember, keep in mind that although we're talking a little bit about what we do in this context, we need to make sure that we can wrap that story, solve that customer problem, and hopefully the way that they want it solved. Many times they may not know exactly what they want, but again, we need to listen, reiterate what they've said, and try to drive a solution home. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this. And so the jump off point for me will be that I'm in a room. I am actively trying to have a conversation with a group of executives, maybe middle management, maybe even doers are all in the same room. And I'm trying to give an overall executive level story that encapsulates what we do, how we're different, why customers continue to trust us, and why customers are betting on us for the future. So I'm going to go ahead and step into role. I may step out every now and then to kind of describe a few things, but I'll try to remember to specify that. If not, hopefully it's fairly obvious. So to start, let's start with the question. Thank you very much for having us here today. We're very excited to have this conversation with you. We understand that when you think Avaya, you don't necessarily think cloud. You may not even think that we are still continuing to push the boundaries of what you can do in business communications, but we are here today to tell you about Avaya, how we are pressing ahead in this business communications landscape, how we're bringing solutions to market cloud first, and all driven by the pain and the opportunities that companies like yours are facing today. So first of all, I'd like to ask a few people, and if there's any volunteers, please let me know, what is your definition of cloud? Now, in this situation, I'm stepping out of role, we tend to hear, not in my data center. I want to shift from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. I want to pay for a steady state workload ahead of time so I get the best discount, the best pricing I can get. But I want to have the ability to burst up or burst down based on seasonal load requirements. I want self-service. I want more of these types of things. So now that we understand what the customer's definition, now we can go into describing what cloud is to us and more of our capabilities, and then try to align our story as much as possible to their business goals and what they say they want. Thank you very much for that explanation. This is typically what we hear. So what I'd like to do is describe what Avaya means when we say cloud, because it's quite surprising how much we've actually done inside this space, and we're extremely excited to tell this story to you. So number one, when most people think cloud, they really think public cloud. So we're going to start there in the public cloud. Right? So first point of clarity, we have not gone out and built extremely large data centers. We're not trying to compete with the likes of Google Cloud, Amazon Web Services, Azure, IBM Cloud. Insert your hyperscale cloud provider here. Our goal is to continue to innovate on our software stack and then use those hyperscale cloud providers to be able to distribute and deploy our software globally. Now, public cloud has a set of attributes that most people think about, and those tend to be a multi-tenant solution. Self-service. Scalable. Standard technology. So basically the idea that this is a template, kind of a one-size-fits-all model, if you will, very minimal amount of customization or integration of potential third-party type solutions to start. And then standard security and compliance. And this tends to be PCI, HIPAA, ISO, SOC 1, SOC Type 1, Type 2, these types of compliance requirements. Now, most of our competitors, this is exactly what they have. And when they're trying to convince an enterprise or some other customer to move to the cloud, it really has to fit inside this bucket. And this is where we start to differentiate what we can do. So in addition to being able to offer solutions in a public cloud type model, we have the ability to do this in a private cloud as well. Now, what are the most common attributes in private cloud? These tend to be single tenant, I'm going to say advanced tech with some customization. I'm going to say advanced security and compliance. This can be managed or self-service. These are the most common attributes in private cloud. So in addition to public and private, we also support a mixed mode where we can basically connect these environments, and thus we have the beginnings of hybrid cloud. So let me give just a little bit more color here. So I mentioned how we actually deploy on top of the hyperscalers for public cloud, and in private cloud we do this in a few different ways, which really definitely gives our customers more options. So number one, we do have our own data centers. These are not massive hyperscale trying to compete with the likes of Google and those types of folks, but we have our own data centers that we've been using for years for our customers as a part of managed services. So we can deploy our software and manage it on our own provided infrastructure and provide it back to our customers on an OpEx type shared responsibility operating model. In addition, we've partnered with other cloud providers that support systems like bare metal access to servers or run VMware on top, so we have a common virtualization layer, which again, from a customer need perspective, needing more advanced, less shared type solutions, this allows us to then scale the private cloud globally as well. So now this is when Avaya hosts this, but again, from another option perspective, we also support something called Powered By. And Powered By is the same Avaya capabilities, but our partners are offering those solutions. And again, they can choose to deploy those services in a private cloud, on a customer's environment, in their own data center, on top of other public cloud providers, or on top of bare metal or VMware type solutions from cloud providers as well. So Powered By really is another route, and maybe you like to work with a particular partner. Maybe you have some degree of customization that maybe we don't support, or maybe they're doing a surround type wrap, which really says you want to do business with that partner. We still have models that help in those scenarios as well. Now, this is interesting. Okay, Avaya, I get this. This makes sense. Why should I trust you in public cloud, and how are you making this move for me easy, less risky? Why? Why am I looking at you for this type of deployment? Well, it all starts back in the customer data center. And I forgot to write this, but what this is starting to say between public cloud, private cloud, hybrid, the options to work with our partners to deploy the same set of solutions. This really is one of the first differentiators, which is cloud your way. So this is a big deal. Once again, we're not trying to fit you into a one-size-fits-all solution. There are options here. So why should I trust my business communication solutions with you? Well, I don't know if you remember these types of devices, but a long time ago, a member of our family, our DNA, if you will, we actually created the telephone. And we helped create initial call centers. So in the very beginning, these were effectively voice type systems, right? This is the landline. This is a stationary device in a specific location, and we helped create call centers. So number one, we are number one in the world in contact center, and we are number two in unified communication solutions globally. So number two, and very critical, when we talk about the idea that experience is everything for our customers, well, that means that you need to be able to deliver great experiences to the end customer. But to do that, you need to have experience and success in actually deploying those types of solutions. No one has more success and experience in the world from the beginning of telecommunications all the way through call center, contact center, unified communications than Avaya. So one of the key differentiators and reasons we believe you should consider us is our experience and our ability to create delightful experiences for your end customers. Well, this is kind of interesting. So contact center, unified communications. If I were moving to the cloud and I really wanted to make sure I didn't have a degradation in business performance, I minimized my risk, I had as low as possible a cost to operationalize this technology, wouldn't it be great if I could use similar or in some instances exactly the same technology when I move to the cloud? And no matter what you do, if this is a brownfield environment, especially for enterprise, it's possible that smaller companies may not choose to do this, but in the enterprise, no matter what end state you want to be in, whether it's all in the public cloud, all in private cloud, no matter what, the journey is hybrid, right? So, what if we took contact center and made it available as a service with these type of attributes? What if we took unified communications and made it available as a service? Maybe we did the same down here for private cloud. And again, our Powered By partners can offer these exact same set of services, giving you maximum choice. And we believe that by operating in this way, this minimizes your risk. And we are the least risky, least obtrusive partner to work with you to move to a cloud-like operating model. Now, this is starting to get interesting. I understand why we've trusted you in the past, but why should we trust you for the future? What's happened? What's changed? Why are you the right bet, Avaya? Okay, great question. So, at every stage in technology, you can say that somehow they created a solution, because before the landline, there was the telegram, right? So then we voice enabled this. Now, at every one of these kind of points, you kind of see that there's, a challenge, and then some folks look at those challenges as opportunities, right? So challenge, opportunity. Well, the challenge was the landline was stationary. If you wanted to go into a new city, you had to get an office, you had to get a phone system, and that just wasn't very cost effective, didn't scale all that well. So some innovators came up with this idea. They said, what if we created this thing called the mobile phone? And so they did. Now, sadly, this solved some problems. We didn't have to necessarily have an office in every town, but for the most part, we treated that mobile phone much like a landline. We didn't really do anything too terribly special. What else was going on roughly about the same time? So over here in this data center space, we see, what's the challenge here? Customers have to go out and spend a lot of capital to buy servers. They have to have a lot of expertise to run data centers. Data centers are expensive. So we saw a couple things start to happen at roughly the same time. So data center folks started to get smarter, and they said, wouldn't it be great if I could actually go buy some hardware and then rent it back to customers? So the idea of providing compute, storage, and network, we moved into infrastructure as a service, right? So if we think of the evolution here, we kind of go infrastructure as a service. Well, that's great, but now we have to go, and we still have to have experts on databases and Hadoop and all these other NoSQL, any of these other systems that it takes to deliver applications. We still have to become experts. Well, the next evolution after infrastructure as a service was platform as a service. And this is when you really start to see the likes of Amazon, Google, and Azure, where they offer database services, storage services, network services, all available to rent, where you don't have to own anything in this almost infinitely scalable and shrinkable business model. What was the next challenge, and what was the next opportunity? Well, software vendors started to see, wow, I'm bundling my applications and asking people to install them on premise. They've got all the services out here. Why don't I start to build my software inside these platform as a service providers? And then we had the beginning of software as a service. And this is, please forgive my timing, platform as a service, right? This is roughly, by no means is this exact, right? This is roughly in the 2007 timeframe. And of course, I'm picking that date for a very specific reason. What happened in 2007 over here? The iPhone was released. And what this meant was these phones got smart. So what happened? With the possibilities to deploy software at scale, with the fact that people were carrying around miniature computers in their hand, we saw an explosion of applications. And many of these applications were other communication channels. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snap, WeChat, WhatsApp, And the list goes on and on. So many of these solutions just were different ways to communicate. Of course, there was email, SMS, MMS, all those types of services as well. And now these things have cameras, we have video on them. So what we really saw was this idea of simple voice kind of going away, and we saw the rise of multi-channel. This idea that now these contact centers, these call centers need to turn into contact centers handling multiple channels. So the rise of multi-channel. And if you want to really help businesses, you have to help them across all of these channels. So multi-channel gave rise to a term called omni-channel. And Avaya has omni-channel solutions. If you've heard of the name, and I don't like mentioning product names, but if you've heard of the name Oceana, this was our on-premises based omni-channel solution. And even more than omni-channel, it wasn't enough to just be able to have to communicate with customers over Twitter. As an example, I recently went and talked with a cloud service provider that I know their business model revolves around great customer service. I worked there at one point in my career, and I know that people communicated with them over Twitter. So I asked them, I said, hey, how does sales know that maybe a customer or an account had complained on Twitter and that maybe you had helped them out? And they said, well, there's a chance they may never know. If the issue was such that we actually created a ticket, then maybe they would see this inside their CRM application. But for the most part, there's a separate database. There's a separate team for each one of these tools. So we have a social team that handles kind of Twitter. It was deconstructed. They didn't have anything that gave a common context. Now, how do people work today? If you're on a website and you're chatting with somebody and you realize, I need to talk to an agent, and you pick up the phone and call, you expect that they're going to know what was just in your chat. Well, guess what? Most companies do not. So omni-channel gave rise to this idea of cross-channel, which means that I have context. I know that you're communicating in these other channels. And then if you can start to map those points out, hey, they were on our website. Hey, they talked with chat. Hey, they tweeted something. Hey, they came back to our website. You start to paint this picture, and what customers really want is you to know what you've done with them, so that in the moment when they call and ask for help, you can see the email that they've communicated, the Twitter message that you had recently sent them. They expect that you can deliver on the idea of customer journey, what they've done already with you, wrapped in a common context so that you don't have to re-explain who you are all the time. So our third reason for why we believe people should look at us is this idea of disruptive or game-changing technology. So disruptive tech. Now, I hear what you're saying. Hey, a lot of people do this customer journey, and the reality is only a few people in the world, maybe less than on a hand, actually have a unified contact center and unified communication system to where we start to get even a much bigger picture. And Avaya is one of those organizations. But let's talk about these challenges. So, smartphone, we're still treating it very similarly to the landline. If you want to know the location of a smartphone for a 911 type call, they typically, the first level of searching really is what's their area code, what region should they be in, and then if you're used to your mobile phones, many times they'll ask you, hey, what is your address in case you try to call 911? The idea being that you're going to be at your house. So again, these smartphones have GPS receivers in them. They can tell very, very, very accurately where they're actually at. But we're treating them like dumb, barely mobile phones, most likely like smartphones. Well, maybe we could solve that problem. What are some other problems that exist in this kind of a world? we've shown that by and large, 50 to 75% of customers calling into a contact center are calling in on a mobile phone. So, you've got these computers on your person. What could you do with those? Well, I wonder if we could maybe service them differently than always passing them to an agent in a contact center, which is fairly expensive. What's another one of the pain points that exists in this world? Every time I call into a contact center because I need to ask a question about an order or my service, my internet service is an example, because I recently had to do this, I have to authenticate multiple times. And especially when they have to transfer me to another group, which is what my story was. I had to be transferred twice. The first time was a cold transfer, so I had to give different authentication information the second time. And ultimately, all I needed them to do was to redispatch the techs that were just at my house, because my internet service went down right after the install. So I spent almost all of my time telling them authentication information. And then when I finally got to the third person, I said, I just need you to call the folks back. Hopefully they're still close. They said, got it. We'll call them. They'll be back over. We'll send you a text message. That was it. So, could we solve these problems? Could we help you differentiate your business? So we are in the process of doing that. And we are launching a set of services called Avaya Mobile Experience. Remember I mentioned the idea that experience is everything? Experience even beats technology anymore, because if technology is too hard to use, customers just won't use it. You won't use it. So mobile experience consists of 3 services. The first service is kind of the on-ramp to get to the second and third service, but there is additional value even here. And to be able to solve some of these problems, we had to be in line with the call. So number 1, to be in line with the call, our first service is a toll-free service, meaning you have the option to port, say, your 800, 844, I'm going to write 8YY number to us, or get a new toll-free number from us, for example. You know what? I'm going to erase that line because I don't like it going across my, don't like that line going across my head. Okay, there we go. So we had to become a mobile network operator. So we had to partner with a carrier, and we ourselves are now a mobile carrier. You can just imagine the types of capabilities this gives us. This is very, very interesting from a technology perspective. But now that we've done this, we have a couple different things we can do. One, we can start to treat that phone as a smart device. So the first service that we launched is the mobile self-service. So I'm going to write self-serve. Now that we know you're calling in on a mobile phone, we can give you the option. We can say, hey, we see you're calling in on a mobile device. Would you like to continue on and speak with an agent, or would you like a digital self-service experience? Please press 1 for that option, or stay on the line. So I press 1, I get a text message sent to me with some type of a URL that takes me back to your system so that I can try to service myself. Now, if I happen to resolve the issue in this digital channel, that is a 100% deflection from the agent. That is significant amount of time and money to save. Now, by the way, I've drawn this out to the public cloud, but I could have drawn it to the customer on premises. I could have drawn it to a private cloud, even powered by, but for just simplicity's sakes, I'm just drawing it to the public cloud bucket right now. Okay, great. That's significant. That is differentiated. So number one, and a differentiator here again, is that when you go to cloud, it's expected that you are operating in an open type method, meaning this service can not only sit on top of Avaya, but it is possible that it can also sit on top of our competitor solutions as well. So again, make these things open. Don't make me have to eat everything of yours, Avaya. I just really want this service. Absolutely. We're going to deliver that to you. Next, I mentioned it, right? I have to authenticate every time I want to call into a contact center, sometimes multiple times. Well, what if we created a service and we partnered with maybe a blockchain type company, and now that we can talk to this device, maybe we actually put, this is BC for blockchain, a blockchain type address on your phone. When we look at the number that you're calling in from, it is extremely easy to spoof that number. When we have a blockchain type address that's encrypted and then stored on your local device, we can tell unequivocally that that phone is yours. That's at least one factor in a multi-factor authentication scheme, trying to prove that you ultimately are who you say you are, but we know that this is your phone. That's great. Well, on these smartphones, we have biometric devices, we have thumbprint, we have Face ID, and we can even use voice as another factor in a multi-factor authentication scheme. So remember that example I gave when I had called into the contact center because my tech had left and I had an issue? Well, I needed about 15 seconds of that person's time, and I was on the phone for about 5 minutes due to the transfers and waiting on hold and these things. So we did the research and we found that on average, and this is not for every industry, it depends on complexity and all those types of things, but on average, we saw that we could save between 40 to 60% of the time was spent authenticating a user. So just for simplicity's sakes, we're going to say that we could reduce on average 50% of the time that you are in a contact center by handling the authentication process better. No one else has done that before. This is patented. We are trying to solve the next set of problems that other folks haven't even thought about because they're trying to catch up with us and just kind of be relevant. We're thinking about the next set of problems. So if I look at this and I say mobile experience, and then what we're really bringing to market is a service like experience. So ultimately, this is experience as a service. That's interesting, Avaya. That makes a lot of sense because ultimately, wow, if I could move some of those costs from maintenance mode over into innovation, I could do something very interesting. Now let's talk about partners just for a minute. You may like to work with your partner, and your partner may have made significant money by doing the installs on premises. They took care of day 0 and day 1, initial installation and initial configuration type duties. And many times they might actually help with day 2 and on type operations. But in a cloud type world, day 0 and day 1 operations tend to go away. So partners are trying to figure out how to exist in this new world. And by bringing these types of solutions to market, saving you money, you can now reinvest, and your partners can help you pick the next channel that you should support, or the next technology, or the next transformation that really differentiates your business. So these things are not only critical to our end customers, but we believe that it helps our partners by really driving some additional savings that can then be reinvested to differentiate and allow that partner to really be a trusted advisor and help elevate that business versus just doing the same thing, keeping the lights on, doing marginally improved upon upgrades. Not really all that interesting. This could be significant. So with the explosion of cloud came this explosion of channels, came this explosion of data. And when I call into that contact center, many times I am routed based on, one or two, maybe a few different variables. This tends to be skills-based routing. The next evolution that folks like Avaya and some others have supported is this idea of attribute-based routing. But even that is fairly static. And what we've really seen with this explosion of data, we've seen this idea of machine learning, and then using that learning to make intelligent decisions. So this is now the movement from data to learning to actionable. So now we're taking advantage of things like artificial intelligence to change these contact centers into intelligent engagement and experience centers. The idea of turning these cost centers into profit centers is becoming more and more realistic. If you've watched and seen the information about our partnership with Affinity, for example, this is a truly amazing solution where you can watch the impact by turning the system on or off. This is just fantastic for our customers, especially the very large ones who are really focused on a better customer experience. Well, we can already do some amazing things with chat on the artificial intelligence side. Just in the last few days at JITEX, we just announced the first ever, so this is another patented technology from us, social chatbot solution. Chatbots, text-based, artificial intelligence, machine learning machines, if you will, typically are experts in one domain. We just created a platform that allows for chatbots across domain to communicate and share information with each other. Imagine in the future when you know that you're using maybe some other third-party solution, you're coming to Avaya because ultimately we are the major platform, so you're starting with us. Well, maybe our chatbot had been talking with the third-party solution, and maybe when you ask this question, we know that there's a knowledge base article that actually isn't from us, but maybe it's from our partner. No one has done this before. Again, we are trying to solve the next generation of problem, not just trying to catch up with the leader. We are the leader. So we are bringing these types of solutions to market. And as you can imagine, vast troves of data, artificial intelligence, these tend to lend themselves towards cloud. So we're bringing to market artificial intelligence as a service. Now, I've shown here how we're starting to kind of optimize this value stream calling into a contact center. And this is pretty good. We've potentially saved, right? We've potentially saved, possibly 15% on this toll free. Again, you always have to be very careful with cost savings. The real value is the on-ramp into these additional services, but you might save this money. Now, so we've potentially helped save money. We've gotten you access. We've improved the customer experience. We've saved money. We can now reinvest to differentiate. What's one of the next pain spots? The agent actually handling the call. When they take a call, they have a decision to make. They can either take great notes and be a stenographer, typing at the speed of voice, or they can really pay attention to the customer and maybe their notes are marginal. Wouldn't it be great if we could take that away and they could 100% focus on the customer? They'd have great notes. Maybe we even do things like real-time voice to text so that we can help, we can actually augment, we can use artificial intelligence, which is what it's really meant to do, which is help humans make better decisions. So maybe we created a technology solution called conversational intelligence, a real-time voice-to-text transcription service that can do sentiment analysis. So you could actually do sentiment-based routing in the call center. If we can tell that somebody's upset, we could immediately send that call to a manager or some other agent. We could take some type of an action. We can turn this emotion into actionable data. The biggest savings that we've realized in our initial case studies is that after call work can be a huge drain on an agent. And we've shown that we can reduce after call work by up to 40%. Wow, right? That is significant. So when we think about they're inside here, we're talking with an agent, and ultimately what we could do is we could take that data, that voice data, turn it into text, and we can put it in the CRM application. Maybe this is something like Salesforce.com. And maybe we save 40%. Now again, these are just numbers, but the idea here is that these are real numbers. This is real savings. And in medium-sized organizations, maybe that doesn't make a lot of money difference, but I guarantee you, you will want that money in your pocket. You want to save where you can, reinvest, and give delightful experiences so you drive your top line, improve the bottom line. Artificial intelligence as a service via conversational intelligence, social media, chatbot integration, and data exchange. No one else is doing it. Patented technology. This is a pretty good story. I think just this amount of story is enough to be interesting. I hope it's what got me excited about coming to Avaya in the first place. Who else can we help? Who else are we not really addressing in this world? Let's talk about those applications. Not only are people developing new forms of communication channels, but ultimately people are starting to embed those specific channels into their applications. I know that in some of these on-premises based deployments with Avaya, there's extensibility, there's APIs in there. Maybe you've heard of something called Breeze. But that's really in the box, and I have to have this on-premise type solution to be able to take advantage of that. Well, maybe we should take these carrier grade services and we should expose those via an API so that you can embed carrier grade communication services directly into new apps or into existing apps. We call this, and you've heard this term, I would assume, communications platform as a service. So we've already appealed to the traditional telco developer from our traditional stack, but that's not good enough. We know in a mobile, web-first type world, we have to be able to offer solutions that get out of these closed systems, and we are doing that with communications platform as a service. So I hope this starts to paint a picture of why we believe Avaya should be included in your next generation RFP, or if you just are thinking about, do I want to change platforms? Have I invested in the right company who's going to move me into the next generation? I hope we've at least piqued your curiosity enough to where you invite us to an RFP, to where you want us to go through some further requirements gathering, schedule a POC, a pilot, and potentially look to moving into production in some of these systems. So thank you very much for your time. I really am excited to talk with you in more detail about each of these things. But hopefully we've piqued your curiosity. Thank you very much for having us here today. Really look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you start to see the power of what it is that we're doing. We want to be positioned as the leader. We want to give our customers options because we appreciate that cloud is not a one-size-fits-all solution. We have a vast amount of expertise in our own internal processes and professional services organizations, and our partners have invested a tremendous amount of time, money, and resources to understand our solutions. So we want to take them with us as much as we possibly can into this next generation. So for our partners, for our customers, for our end users, for agents, I hope you show how we're trying to differentiate, how we are not merely trying to be yet another contact center or unified communications provider. We are driving towards a single platform, a business communications platform, and our innovation at Avaya is cloud first. Make these systems open, cross vendors, work on our solutions and our competitors' solutions. So remember the objectives. We should be able to describe what we mean by cloud your way, describing public, private, and hybrid. Why have customers trusted us, and why should they trust us to move them to the cloud in the least risk-averse way as possible? And lastly, why are we the right bet for the future? Do we have our finger on the pulse of what's required in the next generation of communication services? I hope we're starting to show you that we think we do, and we've had a tremendous amount of interest in these additional value-added services. Cloud your way, our experience and ability to create delightful experience for the ultimate end customer, and disruptive game-changing technology. Do you believe? Are you the new Avaya? Do you see it? I hope you do. Please reach out to me or any of the cloud specialists to get more detail on this. As you can imagine, this is a very high level and we need to double click into each one of those things. What are the use cases that we support? There's a lot of other detail around here, but this is the story that you should be able to tell in a moment's notice via your voice on a napkin at any time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been informative and that you've learned something, and I look forward to engaging with you in the future. Thank you again.